There is anger in Iran after authorities admit to mistakenly shooting down the passenger plane that killed 176 people on board. Crowds in Tehran are calling on its leaders to step down, sparking renewed anti-government protests in the country. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is supporting the protesters, sending out a controversial tweet in Farsi. This while Washington continues to return the maximum pressure to a country already riddled with sanctions. RT's Igor Zhdanov has the report.
As Washington teetered on the verge of an all-out war with Iran, it seemed it was just outside of its comfort zone. The possibility, the risk of a yet another bloody conflict in the Middle East and Washington's responsibility for it was a sizable weight on the shoulders of the United States. Now, though, with tensions easing, it seems that the United States are back in familiar territory with political and economic pressure campaign designed to pressure Iran into submission.
What is our strategy? Post the Qasem Soleimani killing and post the ballistic missile attack on the United States. This is our strategy. We are diplomatically and economically isolating the regime in Iran until they behave like a normal nation.
Now again, these waters Washington has charted through and through, and its sanctions toolkit, if I may say so, is never rusty. As Tehran admitted to accidentally downing a Ukrainian jetliner with more than 170 people on board, it saw a fresh wave of anti-government protests. And those demonstrators, well, they suffered from no lack of support from the United States, with Donald Trump even apparently getting a crash course in Persian.
To the brave, long-suffering people of Iran, I've stood with you since the beginning of my presidency, and my administration will continue to stand with you. We are following your protests closely and are inspired by your courage.
Yeah, he translated this tweet into Iran's official language, because no obstacles and no language barriers for sure should stay in the way of democracy. And to make sure that nothing is lost in translation here, Washington is backing its words up with action. A method tried and trusted: sanctions.
We are announcing additional sanctions against the Iranian regime. As a result of these actions, we will cut off billions of dollars of support to the Iranian regime.
Israel, as is tradition, cheered, as it always does when things get nasty for Iran.
I commend President Trump for imposing new and very harsh sanctions against this regime. I must say that this was also done close to the Iranian decision to accelerate uranium enrichment. I call on Britain, France and Germany to join the American effort.
But few other nations joined that cheering, because for Iran, a nation that has spent decades under all sorts of flavors of sanctions, being free of them is actually more of a challenge.
The United States only thinks that since it's a superpower, that it can do whatever it wants. So it tries to hurt Iran through sanctions. It tries to hurt China through economic warfare and trade wars. It tries to hurt Russia through sanctions. But ultimately what it does is that it brings these countries closer to each other, and other countries become have a more negative view of the U.S. government. And I think in the long run, what it does is that it diminishes the stature of the United States and the capability of the United States to maintain its hegemony.
Now, America's renewed economic crusade against Tehran is rubbing Europe the wrong way too. The EU is in an ill-tempered clash with Washington over Iran's nuclear deal, which the United States unilaterally derailed.
We have been saying in the past, and we continue saying, that we regret the U.S. decision to withdraw from the deal. And we continue believing that this deal is a key element of the global nuclear non-proliferation architecture and critical for the regional stability.
Germany is convinced that Iran shouldn't acquire or have nuclear weapons. For this reason, we will continue to employ all diplomatic means to keep this agreement alive. It is certainly not perfect, but it is an agreement, and it comprises commitments by all sides.
Together, we have made clear our regret and concern at the decision by the United States to withdraw from the JCPOA and to reimpose sanctions on Iran.
Well, now Washington is dishing out assurances that it is ready to sort out all this mess with words and words alone, without even any preconditions.
We will meet with them. We're willing to sit down and discuss without precondition a new way forward. a series of steps by which Iran becomes a more normal country.
But in the past few years, and that is with Iran alone, the United States went back on its word, had zero interest in their allies' concerns, and they assassinated a high-profile foreign official on a territory of a third state, an official who they had branded as terrorist just a few months before that. So now the United States can talk up diplomacy all at once. After all, they're one of the best at it. But you'd have a hard time finding another country with a case of selective amnesia this severe for their own promises.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.